Hey, what's going on everyone? Matthew from therighttrader.com here, back today with another video. I'm going to be going over what I think is going to happen with the altcoins after the SegWit2x hard fork of Bitcoin, and more specifically, I'm going to be talking about which altcoins I think are going to see the biggest bounce and that are very well set up coming into the bounce, and that I think will increase in the next couple days, weeks after the hard fork. And just to give you my general consensus, most likely you can watch my Bitcoin post-fork prediction video, which will come out at the same time as this one. I'll leave a link in the comments below. But the most likely case scenario here is that Bitcoin does indeed take a drop and that the altcoins get a pretty sharp bounce. Now, some will be better set up than others. Some will bounce more than others. With the cryptocurrencies that I'll be talking about, right, the top two cryptocurrencies, in my opinion, for a bounce here, it's really going to be about, the best risk reward, generally good cryptocurrencies, and, that will go on to do well even, months after the hard fork. It's just that right now a lot of these have taken a bit of a hit and, are experiencing a bit of a pullback. So they are, arguably at a discounted price. So a potential buying opportunity there. Of course, this video isn't financial advice. It's just my opinion, but definitely these could be some good opportunities considering, the hit that a lot of the altcoins took. So let's get started here right off with, and by the way, I'm going to be doing these in order of certainty. So I'm going to be going over my top 10 altcoins here for, post Bitcoin fork. And in order of certainty, so this is, one of the ones that I'm more certain of is good old Litecoin. Now, this is a cryptocurrency that I've always liked. I personally do hold some, and I might even add in the coming days. Now, today it's very interesting because it got a bit of a bounce, right? It's up 10%, and I think that this is a little bit of a precursor to what's going to happen, right? And one thing that you have to realize with Litecoin is that it used to be, at least, a very stable cryptocurrency. I mean, relatively stable cryptocurrency. That's not the case so much anymore, but it used to be seen as a little bit of a safe haven, and a place where you could just sort of store your capital when Bitcoin or whatever was acting a little bit shaky or whatever. And I think this is what we're going to see once again, is Litecoin being getting a bounce just because it's one of the the better altcoins, of course, one of the bigger and better altcoins out there. So I do think that this one will benefit nicely from the Bitcoin hard fork, and it's taken already a massive hit. Let me go over and pull up the chart here so I can get into a little bit more detail. But as you can see, it had made these highs up to, almost $100, fell way back down, now we're in the $50 to $60 area. And what we experienced just today was a breakout of a lot of resistance levels, right? So we're now in a much clearer space where we're going to have much more room to head back up to higher levels, right? And after the fork, there's really no telling where it'll go, but I think it'll do very well, moving up pretty quickly to, if it doesn't do that even before the hard fork happens, near this $65 area. And I really expect this Bitcoin hard fork to shoot Litecoin up. Maybe it won't be right away, but at least set it on a pretty powerful path up to, $80 and then its all-time highs, right? I think that this will really be a true turning point for Litecoin to reach its all-time highs in a pretty rapid manner, okay? So it's looking very good here. A lot of technicals were repaired today with maybe this bounce that, could foreshadow the money coming into Litecoin after the Bitcoin hard fork. And it's set up pretty nicely here coming into the, the fork. So that's the first one that I wanted to mention. Next up, I'm going to be talking about one that had a very similar experience today. That's going to be Lisk, right? And this one has taken a bit of a hit for sure in the past couple days because of the altcoin weakness. So once again, that's probably a bit of a discount here. And as you can see, made a high similar, kind of like Litecoin. Let's see, this is a high of $8.63. Got a bit of a pullback here for a while. Now, today, we finally got a bounce after flattening out a bit, and it also cleared out a lot of resistance levels. So it opens up more space to move up exactly like Litecoin, right? We're going to look at this $6.30 level, the high of this candlestick, for, an initial bounce, I guess. And after that, once again, I think that this post hard fork will really be a turning point that could move it up to, its all-time highs and maybe make new all-time highs, basically. So a true turning point here for both Litecoin and Lisk. They're set up really nicely. They've cleared up a lot of room, and I think they'll be able to really take off here after the hard fork. Now, next up, I also have Monero, which is in a little bit of a different situation than Lisk and Litecoin, but still decent nonetheless. And as we can see right now, Monero has been consolidating for a while, right, after reaching its all-time highs of, let's see, this was $166, so it fell quite a bit. And what I think is going to happen here is that this consolidation is, going to be bullish. I mentioned this in my previous daily crypto updates, but I think that this consolidation is just a bit of a, a pit stop, I guess you could say, for, a move higher that it's going to see after the hard fork. So the indicators are looking better than they were a while ago. We finally broke out of this range bound on the RSI. MACD now starting to pull back up a bit. And what happened here just recently, we got a bit of a breakout here on some good news for Monero. So we're in the higher levels of this range over here. And I think that'll continue to trade in here up until the fork, at which point it'll start, breaking out and really get, really take off and break out big time, where, of course, we're going to have this first level of resistance in this $120 area. But once again, I think that this will set the move towards moving at least slowly but surely up until $160, probably reach the 120 really quickly. And I definitely think we can make our way relatively rapidly up until the all-time highs here. I think it's going to be a really good turning point for a lot of these altcoins. So definitely looking good, a little bit of a different type of setup. This is going to be a more drastic move that we could see because it's going to be a pretty powerful breakout. But it just depends on, how you trade. Are you already in Monero, stuff like that. Now, moving into some of the other ones here. So the three that I just talked about, I really like, and I'm going to go over more that are good as well. Now, this one is a little bit of a smaller one. It's going to be Zcoin, which is a cryptocurrency that I like quite a bit. It seems to be getting a little bit of traction. And if we take a look at the chart, it's been uptrending nicely. Made a little bit of an all-time high here at around $20. Fell back from that, but was able to catch itself back up. It is a little bit on the higher side right now, coming into the hard fork, which could mean that there could be a pullback that happens. But I think that it could also has a really good chance of really seeing it kick up to its all-time high and breaking above that. So this could be a little bit of a what's it called? I guess you could say just an area where it could definitely kick it up to its all-time high, but you have to be aware of the risk that it is a bit on the higher side, so it could definitely fall back down as well. Nonetheless, good cryptocurrency and relatively well set up here coming into the hard fork, so I did want to mention that one. Now, another one that we have, going back to some of the bigger names out there, that's going to be Neblio, which is also a cryptocurrency that I like a lot. And going over the chart here, you'll be able to see that it has quite a bit of stability coming into this fork. And I think that's something that everyone should really appreciate. That's a good sign, right? Because as you can see, it took a bit of a dip here, but it caught itself up nicely and has been flattening out, even moving a bit upwards here coming into the fork, right? So I think that this is a little bit of an indicator that, the strength will want to come back in, kind of like over here, very similar to the dip that we had over here, right? The bit of a half circle. So I think that'll be very similar, where the money will at least slowly but surely start coming back in. It might get a bit of a bounce in the short term, but that'll set itself on a move up to its all-time high around $5.85. So definitely, I think that this is a good opportunity here, where Neblio could even move higher than that. It's a very good cryptocurrency, very well set up with a lot of stability going into the hard fork. And let me just pull up the chart here, just so I can, let's see. Sorry, it's actually not available on TradingView. But the bottom line is it's stable right now. It's even moving a bit upwards, so it does have some strength coming into the fork. I think that it has everything it needs to get at the very least a slow and steady grind up into its all-time high, at which point I think it can even break past that. But definitely I like it going into the hard fork here. Moving on, we have, let's see, wrote a list on my phone here. Neo. So Neo is not, you know, a cryptocurrency that I talk about all that much compared to some of the other ones that I went over, but I have to give credit where credit's due, and you know, I'm actually going to pull this one up on the more detailed chart here, just so you can get a bit of a better idea of what's going on. And we had a little bit of a symmetrical triangle, you know, going on. We broke out of that recently, so that cleared up some room, and everything is looking pretty flat right now. We're range bound on Neo. As far as the indicators go, pretty flat and range bound as well. Now, what's interesting is it's coming up on the RSI close to the uptrend line, so it might break above that. But more importantly, I want to talk about the price action here. So a couple things to notice. We have, for one, this uptrend line that, even though we're range bound, is going to be serving as support that will probably move it to the upside, right? So that's definitely going to be a good thing, and we'll give it a chance to really get a nice bump. We also, you know, we've been downtrending, big pullback here for a while, and it kind of got out of that whole mess over here. Unfortunately, because of the altcoin weakness, it didn't have the strength to really take off. But logically, once the hard fork is over for Bitcoin, the money starts flowing back into the altcoins, it will finally get, you know, its moment of glory that it's kind of been waiting for, I guess you could say, where it should indeed, you know, kind of break out, you know, this $33 area and hopefully set itself onto its move to its all-time highs, right? So definitely well set up, a little bit, you know, less clear than some of the first ones that I've gone over on this list, but it's stable and, you know, relatively sturdy here coming into the bounce with an interesting setup that's more bullish than bearish. So, you know, you have to give credit where credit's due. And next up, I have a little bit, let's see, a little bit of a wild card here. That's going to be Komodo, cryptocurrency that I like, one of the privacy coins. Just going to go over this one quickly. As you can see, it's been doing pretty well. Quite a bit of strength here coming into the fork. Now, of course, what you have to realize with that is the more it's going up before the fork, it does have a higher chance of, you know, falling back down a bit because it's already a bit overextended. Now, what could happen here is really one of two things. Either it falls back down to this $2.40 area, which is this previous high over here, or it really does get a boost up until its all-time high to $3.53, right? So a little bit of a wild card. It can do either of those two things, but deserves to be mentioned because it is acting pretty well right now, and I think it is one of the better cryptocurrencies out there. Moving on here, we have a couple more, you know, that are a little bit more on the wild card side. That's going to be Vertcoin. And Vertcoin has run up a lot. I mean, if you just look at this chart, it's been parabolic, right? Now, what you have to understand is it did get a pretty drastic pullback, which is fine. You know, that's completely healthy and normal. And so that leaves us in a tricky position coming into the hard fork, because this is a very, very popular cryptocurrency, and people will flock to it if it starts going back up. I think that's pretty certain. Now, the problem is that we got a run up, right, which, you know, removed a lot of pressure that was built up. So we won't have as much as that if we do end up getting a bounce. And just after such a run up, you know, it has to have some kind of break that's, you know, a bit more controlled. And of course, it's possible that it just starts taking back off right after the fork, but that wouldn't exactly be the healthiest price action, and I don't think that it's going to happen for some reason. Now we have the Bollinger Bands that are starting to contract, and I'm more, you know, prone on saying that this one will, you know, kind of just get range bound. It might see I think Bitcoin could see a bounce in the short term, right? Even if it's a pretty, you know, drastic bounce in the short term, but I don't think that will hold. I think it will indeed, you know, stay in a bit of a consolidation phase for a while. But definitely something to pay attention to with an opportunity that it does take off. Like I said, a bounce in the short term is actually quite probable, but I wouldn't count on it on, you know, being one of those that's just instantly gets set on the move to make new all-time highs just yet. So I did want to mention that because I know that there's a lot of Vertcoin, you know, fans that watch this channel, and it's a lot of people are paying attention to it. Similarly, I'll go ahead and mention it as well, but Grostal coin, pretty much the exact same things that I said for Vertcoin. It had this big run up and pullback, so also pretty popular right now. And the same things that I said for Vertcoin go for Grostal coin, where it could get a bit of a spike in the short term, but overall I think that it has to see a more lengthy. I'm not saying it has to be like super long or anything, but a more concrete consolidation and pullback would only be normal here after a run up that they had. So I don't think that it would set on a move to all-time highs, but definitely a bounce in the short term because of hype and stuff is definitely possible for both Vertcoin and Grostal coin. So potentially an opportunity there, I would say, if you're a trader. But other than that, there's definitely better opportunities out there, like I mentioned in the first ones. And our last two of this list here are going to be Ripple and Ethereum. So let's start off with Ripple here. Now, as you can see, it's been consolidating quite a bit. It's a little bit range bound as well. I'll move over to the more detailed chart here so you get an idea of what's happening. And I'm not the biggest fan of Ripple. I think there's some good and bad with it. But coming into the fork here, there is some interesting things going on. So it's not been acting great. It's been acting pretty sluggish, a lot of red. And what's funny here is we did come back into this uptrend line. And if we can stay above here, that'll be a pretty good sign going to the fork, right? We also have this massive crossover on the MACD and the histogram that's now moving back into the positive area. And look at what happened last time it experienced this formation right over here again. Very powerful moves to the upside after that. So I think that, let me zoom in a bit here to show you guys the price action. Just wanted to repeat this, that this MACD is looking really good going to the fork, and it's a pattern that I like a lot. It's the very overextended hook of the MACD. Now, there's a lot of resistance ahead, which is the problem for Ripple. So I do think it will probably get, a bounce here and a spike after the hard fork. Problem is, I think it will get pushed down by quite a bit of resistance. It could move up pretty high though. It could move up to this downtrend line over here, test that. Could maybe even go as high as this 30-cent area, but I think it will pull back down into, maybe $26 to, I guess, this $21 support level. Basically, in this little triangle area over here is where I see it kind of ending up after the fork. And it could repair itself and do better and really go back towards its previous highs later on. But for now, I think it might still have to consolidate after the hard fork, because there's just too much resistance. But definitely on the lookout for a bit of a bounce here, especially after its range bound price action that you can see a bit better here in between the two black lines. So one to pay attention to. Might not be the best opportunity, but it's a big coin and it deserves to be mentioned nonetheless. Finally, Ethereum. Now, Ethereum is really interesting because it's kind of tricky to know what's going to happen with Ethereum. It could do very well post fork. The problem with it is it's experiencing, as of right now, some uncertainty of its own in the community. It's also going through hard forks and stuff, but it is looking relatively good here coming into the hard fork. Now, it's uptrending in the symmetrical triangle pattern here, which is good. The RSI, the MACD is not really giving us much information. We're just in this symmetrical triangle pattern. It's pretty flat right now, which isn't the best thing. But what you really have to pay attention to here is take a look at what's been going on, right? We've been, I guess, slightly downtrending here, but the truth of the matter is that, let me extend this right here, this uptrend line. That'll give you a better idea of what's going on. So we're currently uptrending on this. That's what we're very close to it right now. And we definitely don't want to see it break below that. We could see some kind of, panic and a little bit of a disaster post-hardcoin fork that would send it lower. But, Ethereum is not a bad cryptocurrency at all. And it has a lot of room to move back to its highs here. A lot of room, a lot of, just think about it. We're at $296 right now, and its high over here was at $420. It took a massive hit, and it's probably, a bit oversold as of right now. So I think that it has a very good chance, let's say, of getting some good price action and, you know, maybe moving up to this sort of $350 level pretty quickly. That could probably set it on its path of moving up to its $400 all-time highs, breaking above that down the line in the next couple of weeks. But, you know, a bounce to 350 is definitely possible. That would break it out of this downtrend line and this sort of range that it's been in. But do be aware that, you know, maybe it wouldn't see as much as a bounce as other cryptocurrencies. It can maybe even kind of turn bearish here in the short term. That's definitely a possibility, but bounce is definitely in the cards here for Ethereum as well. I'd be interested to hear which cryptocurrencies you like going into the Bitcoin hard fork. Please let me know the altcoins that you're looking at. And otherwise, I thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I thank you for watching this video, and I hope you have a good day.